Well, good morning and welcome to day 3 of our devotional on giving. And I want to come back to something that the author talks about in the early part of these 3 sections on this topic of giving. And it's this idea of how in the Greek mind, well, let me read this to you. I think this might help you. He says this actually in one of his footnotes. He says, I've heard it put this way. If a Greek wants to know who someone is, he asks them what they think. If a Jewish person wants to know who someone is, he goes and lives with them for a week. In the Greek mindset, we tend to think of faith as mental assent, whereas in the Hebrew mindset, faith is seen as embodied. So, what the author talks about here is that when we're thinking about our faith, it has to be lived out. And so are we living out the kind of generous life that God intends for us? The kind of, back to another image, open-handed life. Let me just read you another quote from the author that I think is very good. The problem is that walking out and embodying our faith can be quite uncomfortable. We really like the idea of faith as mental assent. It gets us off the hook. We can supposedly be good Christians by simply ascribing to some creeds without ever needing to encounter, let alone trust, obey, and submit to God, nor doing any of the vulnerable things which Scripture commands, like being transformed, forgiving, giving thanks, and so on. So, this idea of being generous people, I want to just give us a way of embodying that very simply in kind of an exercise. Where you are, as you're listening to me, take a moment and just open your hands and close your eyes and see what that posture feels like. Does it feel like receiving? Does it feel like offering something? Now, come back and open your eyes and let's together now clench our hands very tightly and see how that feels for a moment. Does it feel like we're holding on to something, kind of a death grip? Just feel that. Scripture asks us to be people who are like this, both receiving, that's not today's topic, but giving, being open-handed toward people. Let me tell you a story of something that happened to me in the last hour or so. I received an email from someone who will go unnamed. I didn't ask them permission to share the content of their email, although maybe at some point I will because it was so good. And this person wrote to me to tell me how much our devotionals had meant to her, and how she was living out the devotionals on Thanksgiving. She was reading the book by Brandon Cook, Learning to Live and Love Like Jesus, and she was quoting it back to me and telling me how through several hardships, very serious hardships in her life, this teaching on thankfulness had really transformed her. And I was just struck by the beauty of God in her. Now that sounds like a thankfulness story, and in a way it is. But what she was doing by writing to me was this. She was offering back to me a word of encouragement and thankfulness. And in the process, instead of saying, God, thank you for giving me something, she was saying, I want to tell this story. I'm going to give it back. And in the process, my life was blessed. That's part of what God means by living this way. That we don't just say, give me, give me, give me. I need more, I need more. But we look at every moment of our lives and every aspect, not just financial, though that's an expression of it, as an opportunity to say, Lord, you've given so much to me. Allow me to be open-handed in the way I live. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.